Thank you very much. Yeah, just a quick question at the very beginning. Who heard of Jujutsu? Who has been using it? Great. So now I can convince you, or maybe not. Let's see. So who am I actually? Well, I have been a Ruby dev since about 2002. Some people here know me since then. I'm working currently at Platogo. I'm responsible mostly for tools and processes and that kind of stuff. I'm actually a Ruby meetup veteran from the second phase, not from the Ruby Stammtisch, but from there at least. And I think I'll spare you the bad jokes, but maybe not. Yeah, what is actually Jujutsu? So there's this interesting URL, jjvcs.github.io. And the very short answer, it's a version control system based on ref sets with different storage backends. And that's it. What are now the differences between you have been using probably Git all over? Because if not, I'm really sad for you. The really most important difference for me is that Jujutsu has undo. So something that Git is missing, like everything, you can just type JJ undo and it just undoes the last operation. And then I'm stealing now really heavily from Steve Klabnik's webpage. It's easier and simpler than Git, but it's actually more powerful. And I know that sounds like a contradiction, but it isn't. It takes the best of Git and for veterans, Mercurial. Yeah. And it gives you tools that are hard to do with Git and impossible with most, if not all, Git graphical user interfaces. Yeah, how does it do that? It uses snapshots. So every time you use JJ in a directory where you have initialized a Jujutsu repository, it will take a snapshot, even if you just look at the status, even if you just look at the log. Yeah? If you change something, it will be in the snapshot. And the most interesting stuff, so for people that have been using Mercurial, they will be more familiar with ref sets than others. The ref set ID doesn't change, which means different things. So to talk about that, I would just talk you through the workflow. Yeah. Well, the question is, do you have to change the workflow if you now switching from, let's say, Git to Jujutsu, which is the usual path? You don't have to, but you probably should. Because what's the old way of doing stuff with Git? You change a file, you commit something. You change something, you commit something. You change something, you commit something, and then you push it somewhere, and then all hell breaks loose. In this case, you're doing a change, and then you're doing another change, and then you're doing another change, and then, yeah, that looks now pretty good. I'm committing that. Yeah? So it's a change from the way you look at how you change things. That's a weird sentence. Yeah, the one thing that changed my mind was also that changes in Jujutsu are only local. Yeah? So it uses Git as a storage backend. So everything that you actually want to push there is then in your Git repository. But the change sets only live on your local machine because no one else needs them. If you fetch the changes from, let's say, GitHub or GitLab, which it perfectly interfaces with, then it will just create a new ref set on your local PC that no one else has to know about. Yeah? What does that also mean? Those hashes are like that, only stored locally, and you probably need to rebase a lot, which now some people will like, but rebasing is actually fun with Jujutsu. Why? Yeah. It's fun with kids if you are a bit of a masochist, yeah. But usually rebasing, if you don't know what you're doing, and a lot of people, especially those that are using extensively the graphical user interfaces for Git, are sometimes a little bit out in the woods when it comes to rebasing, and they suddenly lose files and changes and whatever. I can promise you, if you use Jujutsu, you will never lose a file because you can just undo the last operation and then you're back to the start. And also, the biggest difference is you can still look at the whole stuff with Git tools, but your biggest problem will be that there are multi-head change sets. So you basically can start a new change set from pulling from different branches or heads. And it will always be in headless mode. So it will look a bit weird if you're using your usual Git integrations. They will still work, but it will look weird. Yeah, it will also make it very easy to recover to every step that you took on the way. Yeah, so branches, I already mentioned it. It'll use branches. It'll use anonymous branches. It'll use branches that you create. You can use your own branches, but it will, so one of the building blocks of that is using branches, merging branches and stuff transparently for you. So without knowing, you will be using a lot more branches than you think. I already mentioned it, GitHub, GitLab, yeah, basically just fetch stuff and then integrate it in your workflow. You have to change your thinking a bit, but that's not too hard. Advanced Git commands. Who has had the sad opportunity to use Git revlog? Yeah. For each ref. Yeah. So why? Who hurt you? Yeah, no. Jujutsu abstracts away a lot of those reasons. You have to use those things anyways. So it'll help you in the long run. Yeah, and then I can just tell you where you can find out more about this. Because I'm not as brave as the other speakers. I'm not doing a live demo ever. I'm not even doing a screen recording because that also crashed in the past. So yeah, you will probably be familiar with the name Steve Klapnik. He wrote a really good introduction tutorial. It's not complete. He also loves pull requests for that, but it's really interesting an interesting read. And of course, on their main page, you can also find the latest information. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Thank you very much. You can find me on GitHub or send me an email. 9 minutes and 11 seconds.
I love it. Thank you, Tony. Also, thank you for showing me, for teaching me today that I am a masochist, because I love rebasing. But look, I'm weird. Do we have any questions for Tony? Oh, we got. I'm so sorry. Hans was like ever so slightly faster and closer.
Unristed, that's dumb, but so I don't have to have my entire team use that. I can just use that locally because it's abstraction on top of Git, essentially.
Pretty much, yes. I mean, if the whole team uses it, there's a bit of a shift of thinking and it makes a few things easier. So, but everyone could decide individually to use it or not to use it, yes.
Nice.
Great.
Nice.
2 birds with one stone.
I love it when that works out.
JJ also supports stack diffs, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go too much into the...
And your personal experience, like, did you like it and did you work with it now?
Yeah, I work with it now. I'm mostly working in my tools repositories with it, so I don't have too much interference with others. But also, yeah, I'm managing also other stuff that people are developing.
One more, no?
Because if not, I have a follow-up question. What are stack diffs?
Ooh.
Look, y'all brought it up.
How
Now I
much
want
time do you have?
Okay, that's a question for the hallway track.
Yes.
Another round of applause for Tony, please.
Thank you.